Hello and welcome to the February 20th edition of This Week in South Carolina in Session. I'm Gavin Jackson here at the State House in Columbia. What was a very busy, action-packed, dare I say, day here at the State House on the first legislative day of the week. Over in the Senate, we saw the Judiciary Committee take up and pass out the controversial personhood bill S-217. Lawmakers voted very closely to move that bill to the Senate floor, where we don't know when it will come up for debate, or if it will come up for debate, or if it will be blocked. There's a lot of ins and outs, a lot of moving parts for that bill. We'll get you some more details in a second on that. Also, over in the House, we saw lawmakers broadly support a bill that would increase child abuse reporting standards, and more details on that coming up too. And also, we have some gun reform bills floating around the State House this week. A lot of these bills were already scheduled for hearing before the Parkland shooting last week in Florida. We're going to have two bills up for hearing on Wednesday, but other lawmakers have introduced several other bills in light of that shooting. And also, why did a House lawmaker bring up Fergie on the House floor today? All that coming up right now. Anderson Republican Senator Richard Cash has picked up the personhood banner left by his predecessor Kevin Bryant, who filed the bill before becoming lieutenant governor. Cash amended the bill to say it wouldn't impact in vitro fertilization efforts, though some lawmakers took issue with its open-ended language that prohibits the destruction of fertilized eggs in clinics. The bill would effectively outlaw 6,000 abortion procedures annually in South Carolina. Despite frosty exchanges and close votes, and at the motion of Democratic Senator Gerald Malloy, the bill heads to the Senate floor, where it's expected to be stalled like previous bills have been.
If you want to do the math, that's about 16 lives per day, 365 days a year that were ended in our state, where the child that was killed was innocent, and there's no moral grounds for killing innocent human life in the womb. That is the position.
But let me ask you, does your amendment or any amendments before this committee take into consideration rape or incest?
Crime has been committed by the perpetrator, and the perpetrator is the one that should be punished.
The father or whomever?
Whomever.
I agree. So let's take this one step further. The physician, if a physician gave that particular child, got rid of the fertilized egg at an early stage, at first sight, within the first trimester, under this bill, that physician, what happens to him?
Well, under this bill, that would be illegal.
What happens? Should he be charged criminally with killing a human being? Because you're giving.
If you're talking about a first trimester abortion, that would be illegal, and yes, I'm sure the physician would be charged if this law is passed.
Have you ever been raped? And I'm not being.
Yes, you are being facetious, but no, I've never been raped, Senator McLeod.
Okay. Have you ever been pregnant?
Senator McLeod, if you'd like to discuss substantive issues, I'd be happy to discuss them with, but I'm not going down this line of issues. I will simply say this. All human beings come into this world, you and I both, the same way.
Charleston Republican Senator Sandy Sin, a pro-life Catholic, said in vitro specialists have reached out to her and expressed grave concerns over the amended bill.
I'm concerned that this trend going down and down is going to continue if we keep getting bogged down in social issues that I understand are very important to many of you members, but a lot of us have worked very hard on other bills that are important to our constituents. And what we do is we come in here time and time again and get something that's going to cause us to fight, something that's going to have angst, something that you know somebody's going to put their name on the floor and stop the bill. Meanwhile, we've got other important business of the state. So I really, at this point, would ask that one way or another, high or low, we either send this bill back to get it in some type of a position to be dealt with. But either way, I think that we need to move on to other important business of the state.
Lexington Republican Senator Katrina Shealy was the only female senator to vote for the bill. Now, the Judiciary Committee has all 4 female senators out of the 46 members of the Senate on the committee. As we said, Senator Sin abstained from the bill, and Democratic Senators Margie Bright Matthews and Mia McLeod voted against the bill's movement to the Senate floor. Later in the day, Governor Henry McMaster released a statement of support for the bill, which was initially authored by former Senator, now Lieutenant Governor Kevin Bryant, who was one of 4 Republicans running against McMaster. In the House today, lawmakers debated Bill H. 4672, Now, that bill would require drivers to get their eyes checked every 8 years when they renew their license. This was standard operating procedure before lawmakers changed driver's license laws last year due to Real ID. Now, Representative Jason Elliott, who's a Republican from Greenville County, said that this is a major concern and needs to be addressed.
The committee felt, and I feel like, that if you're going to drive a car in South Carolina, that one of the most important things in driving a car is being able to see. And there's a correlation between being able to see and being able to safely drive a vehicle. So that's the rationale. And why are we doing it? Because it was eliminated when we enacted Real ID. What was eliminated, I'm talking about, is the requirement that your vision be screened upon renewal of your driver's license.
Lawmakers easily approved Bill H 4705, which is authored by Greenville Republican Bruce Bannister, who wants to toughen and strengthen reporting measures for child abuse and neglect. And that bill will easily get passed over to the Senate later this week. Here's some more input on that bill from Representative Bannister.
So what this bill does is it updates our mandatory reporter law to avoid, I'm talking about the amendment now, to avoid what happened in Penn State from happening here. So at Penn State, one of the reasons that was never reported to DSS or law enforcement is the reports were made to their superiors, the coaches and the assistant coaches and the people who found out reported it internally instead of externally. There was an investigation which didn't uncover the nature of the abuse or the truthfulness of it because they were incentivized not to, and ultimately ended up causing a lot more people to be abused. So what the committee amendment does is it says you have to report it. If you are a mandatory reporter, reporting it to your boss does not count. You have to go outside the entity directly to DSS or law enforcement to do that. It also adds some categories. It adds firefighters. As you know, we've passed in this body an amendment that raises the age that allows you to drop a child off at a fire station. We did that. It was infants, now it's older children. As a result of that, you need firefighters who are taking these children in to be responsible for reporting abuse if they find it. Camp counselors, scout leaders, school administrators, and coaches.
And tomorrow, a Senate subcommittee takes up 2 gun reform bills. S 431 would make it a crime to threaten to use a gun for violence in a school, and S 516 would expedite background check reporting to background check databases in the country. Now, both of those bills were already scheduled to have a hearing this week, even before the Parkland shooting last week in Florida. Now, there's been several bills that have been floating around the State House this year, some dealing with outlawing bump stocks after the Las Vegas shooting, and then others just expanding background checks, which have been trying to go through the Senate for several months now. Also, Senator Greg Gregory took to the Senate floor last week. You may have remembered or heard about this, and kind of expounded upon the need to do more, in addition to just the thoughts and prayers that we routinely hear politicians say after such tragic events. Let's listen to Senator Gregory really quick.
And we talk about it, but we really don't come up with any solutions. And it's time, I think, for us to do that. You know, the biggest threat to the safety of children in our country and people in general is not Muslims, it's not Mexican rapists, it's punks with a gun and a grudge. And this keeps going on, you know, time and time again. And, you know, response, especially from Republicans, whenever this occurs, is the response is typically thoughts and prayers. And thoughts and prayers are not doing any good. God is not listening with regard to this issue, in my opinion. To paraphrase the Bible, you know, prayer without action is basically worthless. And we have failed in taking action with regard to combating this culture of violence that is sweeping our country.
And today we end on a lighter note. Following Representative Jay West's request, he's a Republican from Anderson County, who requested earlier in the day on Tuesday that the House adjourn in memory of the singer Fergie. Now, usually folks request the House or the Senate adjourn in memory of folks who have passed away. He was being a little bit of a jokester and pointing to her rendition of the national anthem at the NBA All-Star Game, which has been widely panned. So let's hear what Representative West had to say about that earlier in the day on Tuesday.
Mr. Speaker, can we adjourn in memory of Fergie and her rendition of the national anthem today?
Mr. West is recognized. Adjourn in memory.
And we have plenty of legislative action happening tomorrow as well, as the House continues to debate the $8.8 billion budget in the Ways and Means Committee. Also, the Senate will have plenty of Senate floor action after they put a controversial bill dealing with poultry farms in special order. And stick with SCETV throughout the 2018 legislative session. Check the daily Statehouse Daybook at scetv.org to find out what's going on up here at the State House with agendas, schedules, and the latest news headlines. You can also find my video recaps every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday live at 7 p.m. on SCETV's Facebook page, our YouTube page, and my Twitter account at Gavin Jackson. I'm Gavin Jackson at the State House in Columbia.